And then, of course, I'm going to hit you up for like 50,000 ETH in exchange for my new token called KEX.
Perfect. There we go.
Yeah. There's always an ask at the end, right? So there's nothing free.
Give, ask.
Right. So starting with project, the supply of PIVX, the current available versus the total that will be emitted at the end of issuance.
Sure. So one of the aspects of PIVX is there is no fixed cap on coin emission, right? So Bitcoin and others, they've got a fixed hard number of 21 million. Well, we'll see when we get there, right? But presumably we'll hit 21 million and there will be no more coin emission, right? So at that point, all of the incentivization comes from transaction fees within the network or something else to be determined, right? We're not in that state, so we don't know what it is. So PIVX doesn't have a fixed number set. Instead, it has a continuous supply, and you could say its tail emission of inflation trends towards zero, right? Because it's at this point a fixed number of coins per block. So as that fixed number comes out and the coin supply either increases or decreases, we'll get into that in a little bit, then you'll have some modicum of balance. But it's a tail emission that trends towards zero, right? Like if you just plot it linearly over time, it's trending towards zero. So in that, so the reason behind that a little bit is we always, at least in PIVX and sort of the original design and continued ethos in PIVX, is you need some modicum of inflation, right? And by inflation, I mean you need some modicum of incentivization to continue to participate in the network, right? And as well as we're not looking to be, the original intent and continued intent of the community was we're not looking to be a store of value, right? So we're looking to be more of a transactionary, transactionary medium, right? So we're probably making up words on the fly, but here we go.
I'm sure promissory was made up when it was originally used.
So it's a transactionary medium of exchange. And so in that you kind of need a lubrication, right? So you can think of inflation as that. You don't want a ton of lubrication. We're not going to go down that, but you don't want I know, you're dying.
I got it. That's cool.
If you've got too much grease on the wheels, it just gets messy and things can get out of balance.
Sure, if you don't go off the rails, yeah.
If you have enough grease, then everything seizes up, right? So you need that like perfect balance. And I went to the car analogy. It's cleaner because I don't know who's watching this show, so we'll stick with the car analogy, right? So
it is crypto though, so it's almost like you do get bonus points if it's a really well thought out double entendre, like
right. Accidental, but right. So in that, so that's what we looked at as that inflationary or that continual emission without a cap, because that will allow for the future continual cycle of, hey, there's an incentivization to stake your coins. There's an incentivization to run a masternode, right? The other side of it is we don't have an incentivization model in our transaction fees because, well, there is, but not directly. They're burned, right? So as the use of PIVX as an entire ecosystem or a means of settlement or, a transactionary, medium of value being back and forth, every transaction fee is burned. So there is an incentivization because if you are participating in PIVX and you're holding PIVX or using it, well, every time there's a transaction occurring, there's a little bit taken out of supply. So if you're part of the network and there's coins being taken out of supply, what's that doing for your value of a coin, right? A little bit taken out, so little value up. You do that times, 10,000 or 1 million, et cetera. So yeah, there's 50, I don't know the number, you're probably looking at it right now. There's 50 some million. I mean, we can look up.
Yeah, let me share the screen really fast. So that way there's
current stamp of today for PIVX.
Yeah. Feel free, and I apologize because I've got screen share control. So feel free to call out a website. So CoinMarketCap then?
Yeah, so we can go to CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, right? Take your pick of what we want.
I really like the CoinGecko guys. I'm not unabashed fanboy.
Well, then do CoinGecko, right? Let's pull that guy up. We'll do this together.
Great seeing you guys in top 200. I know that's not backhanded. There are a ton of pretenders.
I know. And it's slowly moving back up too. So I'm very happy to see that one. All right, so we've got circulating supply 62 million currently.
Got it. Well, and yeah. that hasn't driven price down below roughly a quarter US dollars. US change. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I know.
Again, not backhanded. Here's the thing. We live in a world where coins drop to a fraction of a Satoshi.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, you know, and again, this whole time we had this concept, we were talking about it, this whole perspective of time. Like if you're on this side of just getting into the market, you're like, hey, it's a quarter. That's pretty approachable. You know, for people who have been here for more than a year, for some people who have been holding or, you know, got in or got out, it's like, oh, that hurts, right? But that's just another bigger cycle than what everybody experienced 3 years ago and then 5 years ago. So yeah, it's perspective, right?
Yeah. So, okay, cool. So 62 million currently circulating, and with infinite emission of the coin, we will see that. I mean, it'll be sort of like taper down in terms of how much is going into the free coin supply. But it sounds like then, depending on adoption, you may hit this sort of like this
inflection point.
Yeah, the inflection point where you do have a bit of an issue between broad adoption, utilization, and then fees being burnt versus the emission.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure that you guys already have models for that.
There's models, and there's also when that occurs, that's one of those good problems to have, right? So the other component that comes into this is as more of a community design governance coin, right? So we still have masternode voting. There's still governance models being worked on within PIVX. The community as a whole could look at it and say, my goodness, even though our block rewards right now are 6 PIV, right, per every 60 seconds is going out, well, what if we're burning 10 PIV every block, right? So net is a -4 per block. All of a sudden you start seeing the, circulating supply doing a nosedive. Well, then do you increase transaction fees? At that point, that becomes one of those conversations as a community to say, okay, maybe we alter this. Maybe we don't. We'll figure that out in that moment. But that would be one of those, I don't see awesome. That's a positive feedback mechanism of, hey, this is actually working. People are using this where the value of the coin's going up. So now we get to figure out as a community, what do we do?
Sure. Well, and it sounds like deflation is kind of one of those things that in crypto circles we view as good. It's kind of this weird thing. But hyperdeflation is never good, right? Like we're seeing that we see it in other countries, right? Where we see it in countries that, that most of us don't want to live in, and either hyperinflation or hyperdeflation. We think like, man, monetary policy is frankly, it's too precious to put in the hands of politicians. You know what I mean? It's too delicate to put in the hands of politicians, but at the same time, it requires so much responsibility when you get to that point where there's broad adoption and like everybody's using it for their daily bread.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, it's interesting. This is like maybe a snapshot of like what crypto and, original vision, but what crypto can provide is you're going to have all these potentially you'll have microcosms of communities and groups all using a certain, transactionary value of means. So, all the PIVX folks or people using PIVX might tend to, if you look at a pie chart or a Venn diagram, score this one quadrant, right? So they're okay with more of a deflationary, whatever it is. But if you went over to this subsect that's using a different crypto, they might all be for, no, we need more inflation. Or you go down here and it's like, nope, we need a hard cap. And crypto kind of allows for that flexibility in a monetary policy because it allows the communities to assemble around the value or the means they like. So yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way, but it puts it back in the individual's hands to make those decisions, which is a lot of fun. I think what cryptocurrencies and blockchains were designed to do. But
yeah, for sure. We'll talk about governance towards the end, and we'll get into kind of the opinion side, because I think with a lot of projects, governance is one of those things that I should say for most projects, governance is one of those things that's a little bit misleading, because you hear on-chain voting and you hear decentralized governance, but then realistically at the end of the day, somebody has to pull commit requests.
Sure.
Who's making those calls? And it's not that code is law, but those who write the code do write law. So in a way, governing law for their network. So we'll get back to that. And I think it's exciting. This is, again, it's along with why, it's one of the few questions worth answering or worth exploring. Yeah. But on the project, what was the initial problem or pain? Like what, and who experienced it? Was this a personal anecdote that you can relay from one of the core developers who said like, I hate this so much that I've got to fix it?
Yeah. So there were, going back into like the provenance of PIVX, right? I should have like a little decanter with me right now, but
we'll give you the close up.
Yeah. So you had, there's three original co-founders, or you could say like original founders of PIVX. Two are the most known, right? Or you would like point to them. So CoinServer and 7hacks. So back when it was originally launched, and remember, it was launched under the name Darknet. So when it was originally announced on Bitcoin Talk, there was this desire from everything that I've heard and talking to them in the backstory to say, hey, we really want to go for a means to have privacy be first, right? So we want to provide privacy. We think it's a right for everybody. It's in our manifesto. And we want to do it in a way that nobody's done before, so using different algorithms. And that was originally going to a proof of stake model. So we really want to do a proof of stake privacy coin. And that was kind of like the general, here's what we want to bring to the world, right? Into the personal reasons, that you wanted to talk to 7hacks and CoinServer, but that was kind of like the original model for that. And from that, obviously it went full on. I mean, this was back, 2015, 2016, full on, dev. All the conversations were taking place on Bitcoin Talk. And unless you knew what that was, then you didn't know anything. And this was, 2015, 2016. So the, crypto Twitter didn't exist really. I mean, you didn't have the amount of terabytes of bandwidth being consumed by crypto memes, right? Like you didn't. Yeah. So
it's funny. There are definitely a lot of LARPers in a lot of these spaces. Like, I've been around since so long. It's like, great. What was your Bitcoin Talk handle? Just you're not really doxing yourself, right? If you say that, but you can't provide one.
Yeah. So that was so a lot of the development basically was there, right, for a long time. And then what really turned the corner, I think for PIVX and when it became PIVX, et cetera, was it went from being really developmental focused, which is great. Like you need to do that in the core nexus, into, okay, we've got this thing. It's now working. It's running. It's doing its job. It's doing what we wanted it to do. Well, where's people, right? Where's your community? Where's the engagement? And that was part of my big thing. When I got into crypto is, again, I'm not the technical developer, right? So I don't do the coding. I don't do that. I more picked up on these ethers of what was possible and went, okay, mass adoption, bridges have to be made for communities, for people, et cetera. So for me with Darknet, knowing the co-founders as well and knowing the projects, like, where's our website? Where's the outreach? Where are these components which are necessary for a project? And then when that all came together and PIVX, it rebranded into PIVX and it was here, that's when I think it really took on, I'll say, another layer of the life of its own of being, okay, so what do we collectively as the community want this to be? What matters to us? So, and that's actually an interesting, like, we'll jump forward in time to, and it's absolutely fine. Like, so part of the community wanted, call it optional privacy, right? We did not want a full-time private coin. We wanted the ability to choose between having a public send and a private send. There were some conversations that occurred around that. It was fleshed out to a certain degree. Sometimes it wasn't, but that was in opposition to what 7hacks, one of the co-founders, really wanted. He wanted a full-time private coin. That's perfectly cool. That's great. And there was an opposition from a lot of the community. So it was, oh, okay, the community is going that direction. Okay, well, I'm going to go that direction. And then the community was like, perfect, we're still going on here. So to a certain degree, it's like, you plant a seed into the ground and the tree and it's growing apples. And you're like, well, I also wanted to grow oranges. And it's like, well, the tree's kind of decided it wants to be apples. So
you can graft. I married somebody with a green thumb and my wife she could probably make that happen, but it's not without a lot of work. And it's a very, very weird looking tree.
Yeah, cool. But when it comes to either having full-time on-chain privacy or, you would say the optional public or private send, it's either or, right? You're either going to have a coin that's always on privacy or optional, make a choice to send it publicly or privately.
And to your point, in crypto also, if the community just decides that's not what they're going to support, log on to GitHub, fork. You're right. Yeah. In one button press, your project can be hijacked if you don't move with what your community wants.
Yeah. So that was kind of the, interesting, like, bifurcation and sort of the, provenance of PIVX, but it's also, an homage to, hey, there's people that had an original vision for something, planted those seeds, community assembled around that, and then it took on a life of its own. And then it was like, oh, okay, here's the direction we're going. And it's okay.
Yeah.
We need.
Yeah. So, hey, totally agreed. Totally agreed. I mean, and you see this in Silicon Valley as well. And I don't know if we chatted about this in Las Vegas, but in Silicon Valley as well, sometimes the most well-funded projects don't win. Sometimes the best technology doesn't win. You have to have adoption. Without adoption, you don't get your next round of funding. Nobody cares. Right?
Yep. But if you've got 1 million users and they're all highly engaged, hello.
Right.
As I think we did hit on this. It's like for us in PIVX, and I know this will be a later conversation, the technology is a mere reflection of our core value system, right? Especially in crypto. It's one of the best mirrors of value that we have as individuals or as humans, right? So it's pretty cool to have a technology that can reflect that. But again, that's tech, right? We are beings, energy, in meat suits and walking around and interacting. The tech, well, right now doesn't rule us. I mean, some people might argue it does, but it's a reflection of what we value. So to your point, exactly, it's like, yeah, if you've got a community that's highly engaged using that, watch out.
Yeah, so cool. So Bryan, I'm really curious. This is where maybe it gets a little more personal, and I don't want to get too mired in the technical details or too much with the privacy. To what extent were you involved early on with the project, and to what extent did you personally witness and or countenance that move towards the public/private ability to do public send and private send? Where were you in all this, and to what extent did you really lead out in building a brand?
So I knew. So this actually goes back, into pre-Darknet. There was a project called Netcoin. You can go back on the Bitcoin Talk and look at it. That was actually one of my first altcoins that I got really like, all right, I'm gonna put my energy into this because they had a community, right? It was one of the crypto projects. So it was a proof of stake project and they had a forum. Novel concept. But like, if you go back 6 years, 5 years, and very few crypto projects actually had their standalone website with a forum where you could engage. Right? It was like mind-boggling to think like we're only 5 or 6 years out from that, but that's what led me into Netcoin, because I'm like, whoa, there's people and they're talking about other things, not just the stuff that I can intuit that it matters, but I don't understand it. So I can talk to people on a people level. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to put my time and energy in here. And that was a wild ride, like many crypto projects back in the day. This was like BTCE and Cryptsy stuff and like, hey, markets are great. And then you don't have a market anymore. And like all like, just insanity, Wild West stuff. We still think like, we think this is Wild West crypto. Back then it was Wild West crypto. So made relationships, right, with people, got to know people. And some of them are actually still in PIVX. It's crazy like how the universe like comes together and things. But from Netcoin, I that's how I got to know two of the co-founders of what became now known as PIVX. So when Darknet was being launched, my involvement was this, meaning I was talking to the co-founders, but like I'm not involved. Like my input into like consensus and like what this should be, I'm like that wasn't my forte. But I was having conversations and just like, interesting. I like what you're doing. Okay. It was crazy because originally they're like, hey, we need a website built. So I like mocked up this like god awful website. Like that was one of my foyers into doing like design stuff. I'm like, all right, we need a website, and it never got built. You could probably find it on way back, like, the archive. And that was like the beginning of it, like trying to push things forward. And then I was like, okay, no. And, but always kept my ear to the ground with these guys. Cause again, I trusted them. I had this relationship with them. I had built, over a couple of years. I'm like, well, I like you guys. I trust you. So therefore I inherently will trust this project, even though I don't know what it's doing here in the code base. Call me naive, but that's how I operate in life. It's like, I can trust somebody. So therefore that trust extends to what you're doing until said time when it's either broken or not.
Sure. So that that makes a lot of sense to me, honestly. And then conducting a lot of developer interviews, I've interacted with a lot of people who are extremely brilliant, and I have to agree wholeheartedly. Trust is still at the heart of every one of these projects. They're supposed to be trustless systems. It's crazy, but
so that goes back to the human tech interaction of it's beautiful because we have this trustless mechanism, but even with that, it can be wickedly abused by the people who have set it up. So yeah. So that's when I always cut my ear to the ground. And as the people started coming, other people started coming in, and there was this big push to say, hey, we like this project. We like this code base. The name's terrible. Darknet is a very, for mass adoption branding, not going to fly, right? It immediately, like, you know, my great aunt would be like, what is this Darknet? I don't want to be involved. Like, no, it's not going to work. So that came in to say, hey, we need a full rebranding. We need a full new feel for what this tech actually embodies. And that's when I'm like, oh yes, I'm in. And at that point it's just energy, right? I mean, like, as we've experienced, it's like, what needs to be done? And this was back in 2016. It's like, okay, you need somebody to do social media posts. All right, we'll do social media posts. Oh, you need somebody to mock up this. Okay, we'll do this. It was just, and that's what happened with PIVX is you just had all these people come together saying, oh, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And then boom, there you go. So, part of where I think I had a little bit of an influence, good, bad, otherwise, history will be the judge of it, is attempting to instill in a core ethos of looking at people with respect, honor, and dignity, especially coming into, say, the Slack, now the Discord of PIVX. Is these are people. They might be trolls. They might not be. But just like when I go to the supermarket, I'm going to say hi to the clerk, to the person sweeping the floor, to the manager. It doesn't matter. You don't know their story. You don't know where they're from. Treat them with respect. And look, they just entered your door. That's pretty cool. So that was sort of this ethos. And if you go way, way back, like, I'm always a dude that had, like, you know, olive leaf branches and praying hands and purple hearts. And like, it didn't make sense because it's like you had this really tech nerdy side. And then I'm out here like with unicorns and rainbows, like, hey guys, how's your day going? Like, everything's great. Let's talk about like this. Like, what do you like to do? And I think it caught people by surprise. But then I think it's also what attracted a lot of people into PIVX as people embrace this. Because like, whoa, we can be people. Yes, be yourself. And be part of a good project too. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, definitely appreciate that approach. I think that's still sorely lacking in crypto. And you think that, yeah, in a post 2017, post 2018 crypto world, that there'd be a lot more projects that just kind of get it. And no, they're still just kind of like, yeah, we know that adoption's poor. We know that our price is terrible. And we know that we've got a lot of technological hurdles to overcome, but we don't need people. We don't need users. Yeah. Get those guys out of here. Everybody, right? DYOR, GTFO, like.
Yeah. And I'm like, if anything, this crazy bear market downtime when you don't have the liquid cash or supply that you might have had, you know, at the peak of things, is exactly the time when you need to be getting feedback from whoever's around you, good, bad, or otherwise. Because that's their energy. And if they're like, hey, that's the time when you can really look, okay, who's in this for making a quick buck, right? Nothing wrong with that, but fine. And who's in this energetically to say, hey, you might not have ever looked at this before, but I think we can really push forward. Oh my goodness, yeah, come in. And instead, you see people cannibalizing themselves because everyone's upset. You know, the market's down, they're stressed out and everything. It's like, that's the time when you should be welcoming everybody into your doors and figuring out, how do we do this together? But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like then, at least in terms of where you have your hands on some levers, that's been what you've tried to instill in the PIVX project and in the PIVX community. My apologies. You've actually been my primary point of contact with PIVX. I did meet the developer team when we were at WCC in Las Vegas, and they were actually super cool. Like, then again, like I have a really easy time talking to developers. Not that I'm actually super technical, but I found most of the PIVX team very approachable in person. Yeah. And so it seems like whether that's from your direct influence or just something kind of has become part of the culture over the years, I think it does show for sure. Let me ask you, as far as the project goes, this is something that is one of those big indications of culture from leadership all throughout the community. Collabs and then giving back from a technological standpoint, bug bounties, finding problems, responding to problems in a gracious way, and doing responsible disclosure when you find problems with other code bases. Can you speak to that at all for PIVX?
So I can speak from my position. right? I can't speak on behalf of everybody and how they interact or engage or talk about, right? So in general, what I've experienced from the developers as a whole and their stance is responsible disclosure. There's a lot of forks of PIVX, a ton of forks. So when or if a problem is identified in an underlying component of the PIVX code base, there's a level of, like, let's say, for example, somebody says, hey, I think there's an issue, right? So first thing that has to occur is, okay, is this a verifiable issue? Or is this just somebody like trying to waste their time, right? So the devs have to go through that process to say, is this replicable? Can this actually, is this legit? Yes, no. Okay, if yes, now we've got to figure out, okay, repeat this. What is the patch, right? The whole time this is going on, if that's made publicly known, and let's say there is some sort of issue or bug or vulnerability, there's an awareness that a lot of the PIVX forks don't have the developmental power, resources, capabilities that PIVX does. So if that gets known and publicly disclosed, what does that do to all of those other projects that might not have the same type of resiliency, right? So part of the stance was identify, so replicate, identify, patch, and then let the projects know, hey, before we push this live, here's what's coming down. We're doing a fork, we're doing an upgrade, and here's why. Update your code base. And then that's pushed. So that's been my experience with PIVX, sort of the chronological timestamp of, identifying a bug or getting word of a bug out. So we've run bug bounty programs in the past. There's still bug bounty programs in the developers in general, especially now that 4.0 is released. There's a big breath of sigh of relief, although they're ramping up into the privacy stuff now, where it's like, okay, now we can really backtrack and start to like take a breath and not get pinged a million miles an hour. So that's maybe that's me speaking from my heart of that's been my experience with PIVX in general. And then there's also the PIVX devs get pinged all the time. Our Discord gets pinged all the time from forks of dev or forks of PIVX, and they're like, hey, how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we do this? And the community balances between letting some of that go and then just being like, okay, we're not developing your fork. Right. Like we've got our own code base to maintain, which also helps your code base when it gets out. So actually, it's funny. It just came up in Discord today of, do we create a PIVX fork channel in our Discord, or do we just say, go somewhere else? Right. And in terms of a whole nother Discord where all the forks of PIVX, if they so want, all the devs or whoever's running the coin can actually assemble and communicate amongst themselves. Sure.
Well, if you're actually asking for some kind of feedback, I know with the Turtle Coin project, that serves them very well to have dedicated channels, subchannels within their Discord server for various forks of their coin. But, for them as a crypto note, they've got, a much simpler path to forking and then seeding creating seed nodes to spin up a new coin. And so, the CryptoNote spec was designed to be easily forkable for that reason. So it might be a little bit different, but they're a highly forked project as well for different reasons. And that's what they've done. It seems to work well for them. And based on what I've experienced of the PIVX project so far, I think you'd really, during the phase of market that we're in right now, I think you'd build a lot of goodwill that way for sure.
I'm of the camp of, and we have a couple of PIVX forks that are like really closely aligned. So Zenzo, I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
ZNZ. So yeah, check them out. They're a PIVX fork. They've done an incredible job building an entire gaming ecosystem, arcade, forgery on top of a PIVX fork, right? And they're closely aligned with us. So it's one of those cool alliances that we have. I'm all for it from the standpoint of, I'd rather have a place where forks of PIVX can assemble, talk, get help, and then it can become their own filter feed base. Like, you're going to have predators, you're going to have people come in just like, trying to scam it, but that's going to get rooted out. But if you can have that in a container, then if and as all the forks of PIVX stay up to date and stay current and stay positive, that only reflects better back onto the PIVX ecosystem itself, right? So I'm all for it. And again, it's finding that barrier of filtration. So the core devs are not getting pinged 24/7. And then it's like, and now PIVX is never getting developed. So,
right. Yeah.
Sometimes it can get a little, it could be perceived as being very salty and being like pissed off. Like, no, we're not going to talk to you. And look, I get it because they kind of have to. But so we're trying to put that layer, that membrane, but between them, so it's like you're not getting directly pinged. Yeah,
that's awesome. Way better than chain dead bags. I mean, just saying, you've been around long enough to see this. It's a lot of very tragic stories out there for bag holders.
Yes.
So let's talk a little more to kind of finish up the questions about project and then get into consensus. Sorry, my butt is like super sore because even though this is a way comfy chair, I've been sitting for interviews for so long. I'm not this sedentary person. It's like sitting is killing all of us, but
yes,
killing me in particular right now. But right now, as far as funding, how was PIVX funded? Was there initial sort of pre-mine, or was there any kind of like secret stake? I know it would be a little bit different when you're not talking about proof of work. There are a lot of ways to raise funds early on in a clandestine way. How was PIVX funded, and how is it funded now, and what does funding look like for development into the future and community as well?
Sure. So it was proof of work, right? So there was a disclosure put out on Bitcoin Talk that said, hey, here's when our seed block, here's when our first block's going to come out, full disclosure. I forget how far it was in advance, 30 days, 45 days, whatever was put out, like, here we go, right? There were 60,000 coins that were initially, call it mined to set up the masternode ecosystem, right? Because it was basically, here we need to start the masternodes as well as start the chain. So those went out, but when that was made public as, here we go, here's what we're doing up front, they said, we will be burning these 60,000 at this block. And they publicly did that as well, right? So it was there was no insta-mine. There was call it a pre-mine of 60,000 coins to actually start the masternode network. And then boom, here we go forward. And then those 60,000s were publicly burned. And I forget what block it was, how far ahead in time it was, but it was publicly burned. You can go back and trace it, and yet they were burned. So that was the start of it. So the funding for it basically was blood, sweat, and tears, right? Co-founders' pockets and saying, like, here's what we're going to do. Like, here's 4 Bitcoin. Oh my gosh, right? Like back then, just like a couple $100, right?
Yeah.
So, So
hindsight, that hurts.
Yeah, here's 10 Bitcoin for your month's work. So yeah, that was the start of it. And then as that moved forward, then at that point, of course, whoever's mining it, whoever's part of the project, the devs themselves, they're mining. So, they're earning coins. Like a lot of crypto projects startup, it's sort of, hey, we believe this can turn into something, so we're willing to trade off on, getting some coins now in the hopes that in the future they might be worth something. So that was the entire ethos sort of back of PIVX in starting. I know 7 Hacks and CoinServer, I know they put out some of their own capital and the resources and, networks and servers. And then when PIVX rebranded, there was a bunch of people that said, hey, we'll be willing to put our own money in, or, our own coins in to make this happen. Right. So it's this interesting blend of, so currently today, as it stands, and again, there was no ICO either, right? So this was back before ICO was anything. So
yeah,
full disclosure, so when you had this PIVX, this pivot into PIVX, the treasury was still something. So every block up to a certain amount of PIV goes to be used by the treasury. Now, it's not automatically going there, right? So every 30 days up to, I think it's 42,000 PIV is available, or 36, I forget the number. It's been a while since I've actually looked at the numbers, but there's a certain amount of PIV every month that's up for available for anybody who puts a proposal in to receive. Right. So currently the PIVX devs have a proposal in, I think I forget for how much, every month. So they're getting, 2,000 PIV a month or something, or, 3,000 or 6,000, whatever it is, total of 24,000 PIV a month. So they put a proposal in, they say, here's how much we're requesting. And then the masternodes vote on that. Yes, no. So if enough get yes, then what happens is in that super block every 30 days, it looks through, so the code base looks through and says, okay, here's all the proposals in, here's the tally of yes versus no, here's the ranking, and start paying out based on what's available from that super block. So if no proposals go in, those PIV for the treasury aren't created. So it's not going into some treasury. It's not sitting in, somebody's vault that person has the keys and now says, okay, you get this amount, you get this amount. If it's not ever requested and voted on, it's never created.
Got it. So it's totally conditionally issued, and then it's use it or lose it each period. That's so cool.
Which has its pluses and minuses, right? Sure. It has its pluses because it is really dependent upon, right? Yeah, community.
I've got to ask, man, how many rainy days have you guys wished that you had a little in store?
Well, so people started doing that, and which was awesome to see community, because they're like, there's 10,000 PIV that aren't being requested this cycle. So that person was like, okay, I'm going to put a proposal in to request those 10,000 PIV to use for a future event, right? Here's my public address. Here's the PIV. You can trace it. Here's my public handle. If these coins ever move, then come find me, type of thing. And then that person actually took the PIV and then used it for a future event. Cool. Perfect, right? So he saw the foresight of, oh, well, these are going to go to waste. Then I'll claim them so we can use them for events or whatever. And he did. So, which was awesome. But yeah, there's days where it's like, oh my gosh, like we just, that was $80,000 that cycle that know.
Right. Well, Bryan, I asked because I've got a good friend here that she used to run a nonprofit they did some arts, they did some crafts manufacturing in a couple of villages in Africa. And it was actually very high impact work. I mean, it's really tugs at your heartstrings, but man, she is stressed. Another friend of mine from school who runs Lifting Hands International, they work with Syrian refugees, and these women are like, it's nonstop stress in their lives because funding is always, it's a wolf at the door, right? Like they've got to just keep on trying to slam the door shut. And it's like, man, we got to figure out some way to lock in what you need.
Yeah. So part of what occurred over the past year as well is there was a bunch of benefactors, whales, depending on, what side you want to look at it, right? If you're in crypto or not, that it's awesome because there's some of these folks that are in PIVX that, sometimes whales are just like, screw you all. Thanks. Your project is making me ridiculously wealthy, and keep doing your work. And I'm just going to go live on my yacht somewhere. Right. Happens. Yeah. So some of these whales, individuals, whales just seem so impersonal. So some of these individuals said, there's no point for me just making more and more PIV, especially if the project's going to die. Right. Like that doesn't serve anybody. And because I believe in the people in the project, what they started to do is say, I'll match the budget. So even though the budget is saying, okay, here's every cycle coming from the treasury, I will put into an account the matching amount. So any project that passes but isn't paid out from the actual treasury can get funded from here. And the way they set that up is they actually established the PIVX Foundation. So it's an actual, as a 501c3 that exists. So individual donates their PIV to there. And what happens is the PIVX Foundation has agreed that any proposal that does not get funded but passes is now eligible to get funded by the PIVX Foundation. So basically doubling the budget, but not putting the stress into the treasury. It's coming from individuals. So
very cool.
That PIVX Foundation also exists as well for like if entities want to submit and say, hey, you know what, like, can I put a submission in to get funded? What they do is say, yeah, absolutely, submit it to the actual PIVX blockchain, right? And if you get enough votes in it, like in the community, we'll pay you out.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So got it. So the rainy day fund essentially is in place through the foundation. It sounds like mostly.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So just curious because funding, I mean, so many crypto projects, I've spoken to some community oriented crypto projects where it's been a labor of love for 18 months, 36 months, a lot of people going on looking very haggard, like, okay, I've sacrificed a lot of evenings and weekends where my family hasn't seen me and I've got nothing to show for it. And the project is still broken.
Yeah.
A lot of sob stories there as well in crypto. So funding matters.
It does. It does. And especially your community, right? Because that's the other thing. If you're by yourself doing it, that's brutal. But if you've got a community of people like, oh, they're doing it, like they're putting the time in. Yeah, we're not getting quote unquote paid, but we're all doing this. That makes a huge difference because you can go a while on that, and hopefully through like the uptick in the markets. So Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, that's great to hear. And I don't think we covered that when we spoke last. So as far as unique tech advantages or benefits to PIVX, both today and in the roadmap, what would be the unique advantage to PIVX today versus most projects that are out there that somebody who's brand new to the crypto scene would see and think, I got to look closer at PIVX?
Download the new wallet.
In fact, I did right before you jumped on. Shall I show you?
Yeah. So this is, and again, my design aesthetics, so this is the incredible, and there's so much more work to do, right? So this was built over the past 11 months from the ground up. So most QT wallets, right, are all based on the same. They're just different skins, et cetera. This was completely recoded from the ground up. So this is unique to PIVX, or, if anybody's forked it, then now they have it as well. But, but yeah, so it was designed to be a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more friendly. So that alone is a big step forward for PIVX. And I think, the entire, crypto ecosystem, it's a lot cleaner code from the ground up. So the other component is, you got 4.01. Look, you're even ahead of me, my friend. Look at that.
I wasn't joking. It was a fresh download from the repo.
That's impressive. I didn't even get to that today. So, so the other component is cold staking, right? So I know you want to talk about consensus. So one of the elements right now, so PIVX is a proof of stake, consensus algorithm project. So if you have PIVX and you have it in a wallet and you stake it, you can, earn rewards. Basically, you can earn some stake. So one of the things now in PIVX is you can do cold staking, which means you can actually have your PIV offline in a cold wallet and still earn stake rewards. So you can set up basically a delegated staker that's cold. So basically, you don't have to have your wallet up and running, right, with PIVX in there, which means it's open to potential, attack vectors. You can actually have your PIV offline in a treasure in your safe, buried in a bunker in Abu Dhabi, and you're still earning stake rewards. So
very cool. Well, on that note, as far as the available cold wallets or the recommended procedure for cold staking, because I know there are some people who are diehard, like, yeah, I've embedded it on this little MMC element that I then ripped off of the PCB from this other storage version. Like you said, people go to extreme measures, right, in crypto. What are some easy ways for the person who's just approaching crypto to put their PIVX onto a cold wallet of some sort and then cold stake?
So there's actually, I think if you go on the PIVX website, there's a couple tutorials. YouTube channel has a couple tutorials, like simple for cold staking. And I mean, it's pretty, from what I haven't set this up yet, it's pretty straightforward. You can use a ledger, you can use a treasure. So if you're familiar with a ledger or a treasure, then if you know how to get your PIV onto there, then you can set up your cold staking from there.
Okay, so easy enough then. Makes sense. Okay, so then it sounds like the wallet is one of the core features right now that would be attractive to somebody today. It's deployed and it's out live today.
Same with cold staking today. Boom. That's attractive for some people as well, to be like, hey, I don't have to keep my PIV in a hot wallet. Like, it can be, again, on a treasure or ledger, and I'm still earning stake rewards. So it's
very
huge.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah. So let's talk about them in the future. The roadmap items that will, in your opinion, make PIVX one of the more attractive projects for somebody to look at over any other masternode project or cold staking project.
Yep. So this is the next big roadmap item, is privacy, right? So PIVX is, we are private instant verified transaction. I don't know if you probably heard there was a huge vulnerability that was found in not PIVX, but in the lib0 directory. So the whole protocol around zero coin, most of the projects that were using a zero coin protocol were pulling from that repository, that library, and there was a vulnerability found in that. So it wasn't unique to PIVX, it was any project that was using that library. So when that was discovered and found, I know there's a lot of work that's going back before all the projects that were dealing with that at that time. A lot of them were talking together like, yeah. So that's going to be the next big roadmap item, is seeing what the PIVX developers put forth as that next privacy protocol. So they're still going, from everything that I've heard, they're still going after a zero coin implementation. Obviously not using that lib 0. So with some of the work that was done by Jonathan Boodle, Mary Maller back in 2018, they've had some items were mapped out, but that's going to be the next big one. And again, when that gets implemented back, now you've got again, private proof of stake, blazing fast, masternode capable project, also has cold staking as well. So
very cool. And it sounds like then, having come from Zero Coin, that some form of mint and burn a la Zero Coin may be what the team goes back to, as opposed to like ring signatures, like or ZK snarks. Unlikely to be any kind of like massive shift in the privacy protocol.
To be determined, right? So I can't speak on their behalf, but that's my gut says yes. Like they don't want to shift into a completely different paradigm, as it were. But to be seen.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. So I mean, and again, this is the privacy series. So I am talking when we're talking to developers, I am asking deep dive questions regarding privacy protocols, and primarily for my understanding. Right, I'm a huge believer in the Socratic method. Huge believer in the dialectic. So this is how I prefer to learn, as opposed to just reading white papers. So yeah, cool. So I can't wait to get back and talk to the PIVX team about a deep dive on privacy. We'll probably skip a lot of the privacy oriented questions that have to do with the tech for right now, because Zero Coin is zero, or lib 0 is broken. Yeah, and it's what is it? I think apropos of what you just said, Zero Coin is dead. Long live Zero Coin. Maybe we'll see. To be determined. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. But on consensus, still, as far as the people, the block reward rather, and how it's distributed to cold stakers versus masternodes versus something of a treasury allocation that apparently is use it or lose it on a given period. What does that break down to in percentages?
So it's 3, 2, and 1. So they were, it'll get readjusted again, but so 1 was always going to the treasury. So 2, or up to 1, every block was going to the treasury, right? Again, use it or lose it. And then it would switch between 3 going to a masternode, 2 going to a staker. So when there was private staking, if you validated using ZPIV, which was the private PIV, then you would earn 3 PIV, right, from that block reward, and the masternode would get 2. And then if you validated just regular staking, just regular PIV, you'll get 2 and the masternode will get 3. So there's kind of a little bit of a seesaw element there, but that's the breakdown. So 6 PIV emission every block, and it broke down basically 1 to treasury, 2 to a staker, 3 to masternode, or 3 to staker, 2 to masternode.
Got it. Okay. And that sounds totally reasonable to me as far as the one going to the treasury, especially using the sort of allocation system that you guys have. Yep. That is more than reasonable.
Yeah. So the inflation right now, if you calculate out, I think it's like right around 3.8%, 4% a year total. So what's the block reward versus what's actually in the circulating supply? So, of that, then what, less than 1% is treasury, or, of the actual inflation rate. So yeah.
Very cool. So as far as other consensus mechanisms used, you mentioned that there is the proof of stake, and the way that block reward is allocated is, as you put it, a bit of a seesaw, which I think is really cool. It's very, very, very fair-minded. And I think there are a lot of projects that just say like, no, it's a hard percentage for this and a hard percentage for that, because it's easier to code, right? Like, yeah, to just allocate it that way. And you mentioned that your launch consensus mechanism was proof of work initially, which, I mean, wouldn't be the first masternode project to do that. You have to seed the actual available supply somehow, or produce it somehow. Makes sense. And as far as the user avatar, normally when I'm talking to proof of work projects, I would ask them like, who do you want mining for you? Because there's always this arms race from CPU to GPU to FPGA, and then rapidly somebody from China says, we've got an ASIC, and your network just gets chewed up by these larger mining facilities. But in your case, I'll just ask, who is sort of like I hate to say preferred user avatar, yeah, but I mean, we'll use the sales lingo. Who do you want using PIV?
People. I know that's a broad statement, but if you think about, so who do we want using PIV? The ideal is highly engaged people within themselves and their community, right? At the end of the day, because they're going to be the ones using it or getting involved in the project that's going to replicate back into their communities, right? So that was one of the fun things. So, the beautiful thing about, the way PIVX is designed, engineered, and available to people. I mean, we had somebody come in. So if you remember, I was doing PIVX press videos for a while, and then took a sabbatical and went way behind the scenes building some stuff for PIVX. Part of it was being involved in the foundation and some other stuff that will come to light soon. So, hoping, fingers crossed. Like,
We don't get any spoilers. Come on, man.
I know. Let's just say PIVX and payment processors, right? So there you go. Yeah. Yeah. So look up Bendable. There you go. Look up that one. You might be able to start piecing some stuff together. So it's depending on how good your forensics are. We had somebody from Cancun, right outside of Cancun, said, I love this project, right? Like, I love what you guys are doing. I would get involved. And now he's been doing his whole LATAM PIVX press episodes. Like, all on his own, getting funded, build a whole team. There's all these people that go to meetups down there just because he raised his hand. He's like, I want to get involved. And he just started doing it. And then all of a sudden the community's like, that's awesome. Here. So either whether it's from the treasury or people just supporting him, there you go. So
it sounds like there's very much a community building / content building orientation for a lot of the rewards that are coming out of both the foundation and then the treasury.
Yeah, you got it. So that's sort of my, I know I'm getting dinged. Ooh, what's all this? My iMessages is going nuts. There you go. So,
see, NSA, hey, you mentioned Vendable. Get the interview.
So yeah, ideal person or, demographic really would be people that want to be engaged, right? So, not just hey, I think this is cool. Maybe I'll hold on to it for 2 years and then we'll see if we've got money. Like, that's fine. That's great. But really people that are sort of passionate about themselves and what they're doing and then being open to having dialogue with other people. That's why I said people, because that's maybe my idyllic view of the world of what's possible. So that's what I want to invoke out and say, that's who I really would love to have part of this. And we've seen that, right? You've seen the people come in that get passionate about it. Look, we've got on another quick aside, she's incredible. She took over a lot of social media. She knew nothing about blockchain, right? She's a grandmom, knew nothing about crypto, nothing about blockchain, started getting involved and was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to start up my own PIVX community channel. Started it up on Twitter, on Facebook, on Pinterest, on Instagram, and all on her own. Because she's like, I love this. She's like, I didn't know what to do with my life. And now this is great. I'm learning about this cutting edge stuff and people are loving the stuff she's putting out because it's through her lens, right? It's not your traditional, oh, here's the project and the tech and blah, 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 which is good. You need that. Sure. But then here's this she's a grandma putting out this awesome hip, and even some funny meme stuff. And you're like, oh my God, this is my mind's blown. Time, right? In crypto doesn't exist really. Right. That's what's happening. When you've got that, I'm like, yes. So that's what I mean by that's ideal demographic.
Very cool. Okay, so you really want people to actually link arms in terms of advocacy. Then it sounds like at the end of the day, regardless of where they can lift around the project.
Yeah, okay. And that's why. So for me, and that's the thing of privacy at that point. If you make privacy your goal. So here's my analogy, right? So in anything in life, if you have a goal and you're trying to attain that goal, what I was always trained is you don't shoot for it. You go past it, right? You're aiming in your mind's eye past your goal, right? So you set your goal and then you look beyond it because guess what happens? You'll attain your goal along the way. So the same thing with privacy is if you just focus on privacy, right? Then you're going to miss a whole lot of the other elements. If you set privacy as one of your goals, but you look beyond that, knowing that you're going to have the developers and the team to build along the way, you're going to hit a much bigger picture. So that's why for me personally, PIVX, why I love it going into my ethos is privacy matters. It's a big part of it, right? We also feel there's a need to have the ability, especially in some of the charity work, to do public sends, which I'll get into later, but you're going to need to have verifiable, perfectly audible transactions, especially in charity work.
Oh yeah, no, 501c3 based on a fully anonymous and fully private all the time cryptocurrency would get wrecked by the IRS.
There you go. But if you've got the ability to do both, now you've got the ability to hit all sectors, right? So looking past that then is we're going to the devs as well ensure that that element of privacy remains part of PIVX, but the mind's eye vision is way past just being private.
Cool.
Which back to our manifesto of why we exist. So
very cool. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you wrapping that up. That's actually very tidy. And I wish that more projects actually had a bit more of that orientation towards community and a much stronger why. There's a lot of projects that say, well, we wanted to pioneer proof of stake 3.0. Well, where are those coins now? Do you recall first successful implementation of proof of stake 3.0? Does anybody remember their name? I can tell you no.
Should. Crap, maybe I should.
Yeah, I won't even repeat their name. They're a chain dead project. Yeah. There are only bag holders left and bitter feelings. So let's move a little bit past privacy in terms of the tech, because right now it's just not going to be a fruitful conversation today. But as far as the I'll ask more about just usable ways to use PIVX now that will benefit from when you reintegrate privacy. Do you have, for example, a mobile first experience? When Zerocoin, before it was found to have some vulnerabilities, did you have a mobile first experience that allowed for private send?
A mobile first.
Here's why I ask. And I know you'll appreciate this. Yeah. There are a significant number of users of technology in underdeveloped country or developing countries like Central South America, like South Asia, where the mobile technology, the mobile experience of the web and digital tech is their first experience, and it may be their only experience possibly for the next decade or more. Yeah. And then maybe indefinitely. We don't know yet, but for now, they have a phone, ideally some kind of a smartphone, maybe limited, but that is their window to all digital tech.
Yeah, so we have our own native iOS Android apps. The privacy aspect is not yet part of that, right? And when we had ZPIV, et cetera, it wasn't part of it as well. So everything there was still public, but we still had a mobile app that was native for ourselves, for our users as well. So they had that, et cetera. Yeah, that remains to be seen. I mean, that would be like a huge bucket list. Like, yes, is being able to have that be part of the mobile ecosystem. So kind of baby stepping into that, I guess is the best way I can put it. But yeah, we have the ability for, adoption strictly from a mobile device, whether it's iOS or Android. So the apps are available. There's also another project that's ancillary to PIVX. Like, this is the other thing I love about PIVX is we're branching from this into ecosystem mode, right? So it's like build, and then there's the other projects that are building around the PIVX ecosystem. There's another mobile wallet that's being developed that's also a whole like point of sale ecosystem designed for that specific purpose. So
awesome. Okay, cool. That's so. And again, I think I gave my reason for asking in a very impassioned way because I have friends I have friends in India. I have friends who their family members are still in Venezuela, for example. And in some of these territories, the penalty for authorities discovering that you have anything is that it's forcefully removed from you. It's borrowed by the state. So yeah. Sometimes at the point of a gun. So yeah. So that's why I ask. It's outside of PIVX proper, are there any third-party supports for privacy, such as a CoinJoin implementation that is unique to PIVX, that somebody could use to enhance their anonymity and privacy right now in the interim?
It's a great question. I'm not off the top of my head. I can't think of it.
Sure. So, hey, and you wouldn't be the only project that that is in the top 200 and rising in the market cap to have to respond that way. It's not everybody has the incentive, the financial incentive to create their own fork of Wasabi wallet or whatever. So, okay, cool. Yeah, just curious. It's near and dear to my heart. Just it's a thing when you start to meet people who are from these areas, you start to feel for their problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I know you're not a stranger to that, but had to ask. So on future privacy plans, it sounds like right now there's not really a decided route to go there. Let's talk about privacy opinions. Let's talk about kind of like, at this point, the roadmap sounds like you've got a couple of problems that you're focused on solving for the PIVX project, and you've got a lot of stuff that is not broken, that works really well. So bravo, not chain dead, and stuff works. That's in 2020. What more can you ask for, right? With privacy opinions, what are your personal favorite private currencies? And I mean anything that could be like an in-person, like tangible unit of exchange or store of value, or it could be a different project. I promise I won't tattle on you or make it sound like you prefer other projects. But your top three.
So if we want to get drilled down into sort of the philosophical esoteric, right? I'm a huge proponent of being self-sustainable, right? As part of a community, right? So perfectly decentralized and centralized at the same time. That great paradox, right? I'm an individual as part of a whole. So in that, growing food and having something that is tangible from your own creation, as it were. So whether it's food or being a woodworker or a metal worker or whatever else it is interesting, because in this realm now, you can be really private with that, right? Like I can now, exchange, barter with a neighbor for goods or services. There's no record of that. Maybe should there be? I don't know. That's another question for later. But at the same time, it's like if I can grow cucumbers and make pickles, and then you're, an HVAC guy and you really like pickles, and you can do an exchange. That's pretty dang private. Yeah. And really more human. So in that sort of camp of, I know most people don't have that, say readily accessible right now. My hope is that that's more of what the future looks like, is people actually are taking care of themselves in that way, and food and sustenance and means and et cetera. And then you're just being able to interchange that and kind of taking care of yourself and your family at the same time. But, that's sort of a big vision of mine. So that's one.
Okay. It sounds like top of the list then is barter with anything of value that you can create with your own hands.
Way more personal.
I mean, nobody can argue with your logic, and clearly there are a lot of people who will try to, like, oh, well, you need gold, some will say, but everybody's list is different, and I really appreciate you putting that at the top of the list. That's awesome.
Because that for me, I think that's it speaks to what really matters. Look, at the end of the day, my feet are in dirt every day. Like literally, it could be snowing. I've got my socks off and I'm like walking around in dirt, because that matters for me. Like I get connected, and as much as I love tech stuff and big vision stuff, it's like, I need to go feel some dirt in my feet to remind myself of, okay, there is something in this realm that we're in that isn't just digital. And like, this is awesome. This exchange is incredible. I'm so thankful for it and grateful. And let's not forget that, like, I live in this physical space here. And so I need to be very mindful and stewarding of that space. So that's why I think for me, that really matters, because it speaks at other levels. Current private coins, right? So if we go into it,
I'm talking about any kind of currency, though, any kind of currency or any kind of exchange. And your list topper is pretty awesome. So
yeah, like that's huge for me. And then if we move down the ranks of like, okay, we're in this ecosystem and in this society that is digital and is tech, et cetera. PIVX currently right now, there is not the capability to private sends. When it comes back in, that'll be one of my top favorites. I highly respect, you've got the hat. I highly respect Monero for what they've done and are currently doing in the private realms. That sort of ethos vision there is pretty awesome. So I greatly appreciate that dedication to that lane and sort of really pushing that forward, right? If you want to think about it, it's like they've done an incredible job of being a bastion in that sector. So I would put that up there as well. And as crazy as it is too, it's like, pre-1965 silver dimes.
All right. So you're a silver guy, not a gold guy.
Well, what's going to be easier to carry? All right, let's go down the crazy. Let's say there's a currency collapse. What's going to be easier to carry around and actually use as a means of barter? An ounce of gold or a nick or a dime that's got, junk silver in it that still has some value.
Oh man. The thing is, Bryan, now you're getting into prepper territory, because somebody would say for the same weight, would you prefer 9mm or 5.56 NATO? I'm just saying that this rabbit hole can get deep.
And now you see into my mind. Yeah, but that's another element too of being able to have like that exchange. The other one, so the fourth that I'll have, and this goes back into it, is life straws. This is a shameless plug. I don't get anything from them. Life straws.
Get yourself a ref link. I'll put it in the comments, man. I'll put it in the description.
So here's why. Nobody thinks about what do you really need? And okay, prepper, right? Well, we'll go there. What do you need to survive? Food and water.
But water first.
Hello. So $20 or $15 for a life straw from Amazon. I really should get an affiliate link. But anyway.
Yeah.
So one life straw is basically enough water for one human being for a year. So a $15 investment now, which is, nothing for anybody. Yeah. What's that worth when you don't have access to running water?
Oh man. Now you make a really compelling case. My wife and I always keep bottled water, and I haven't had larger water jugs yet for us to, because the way that we do it, reverse osmosis, a carbon filter to make sure you get a nicer taste, and then put it into your storage tanks, and then pull from there so it's always moving. So I get refreshed. But then a few 10-gallon tanks, even, or 50-gallon drums, and family of 5 is covered for couple weeks, maybe a quarter, depending on how many of those you have, but that's a lot of water to keep around. But I'm with you. I mean, it's not that I believe that the nuclear holocaust is coming anytime soon.
No, I'm not either. And the other thing too is what I found fun is blowing people's mind, because you can take one of these out. I go down the stream that's, out there and be like, yeah, you want some water here? Because these were designed for third world countries where they don't have access to clean water. Right? So what's easier, building a whole ecosystem to purify it, or in the immediate time, getting these straws out to people that they can use so they can get clean water? Yes. And I'm like, if I've got 10 or 15 of these around, and that's 10 or 15 years of water supply for 10 or 15 people, what's that worth in a economy when you need it?
In terms of tribe building also, I mean, and again, I know this is gonna matter to you. You're gonna grok this immediately. In terms of tribe building in a crap hitting the fan scenario, if you're a guy that can help give people clean water and also be open and accepting, you don't want to get all Rick Grimes shooting people in the face over scarcity. If you can build culture instead.
Well, I believe that we exist in a world of abundance. I do. I truly believe we exist in a world of abundance. I also believe that most people put themselves into an existence of scarcity, and their mindset is one of scarcity. So they live in a model of there's only a finite amount. Ooh, I didn't go here, but I'm going here. There's only a finite amount. And so therefore it's either mine or it's yours. And thus tensions arise and fear of, if I don't have this, then etc. So I believe in a realm of abundance. Look, it's not unicorns and roses, but I believe if you can put yourself into that mindset, you can then see what's immediately around you in your surrounding area, whether it's, your apartment or, a forest in front of you or the water in front of you. It's all about perspective. So
Sure. I agree. Without getting metaphysical or getting into anything that's like hippy dippy or religious or dogmatic. I think most people who can be reasoned with should be able to see that there's value in what you're saying. And I think that the way that you conduct yourself, Bryan, there's a reason that I was really looking forward to reaching back out to you. And I think in part it's because you really do exude this. Like, it's very clearly a governing principle in the way you conduct yourself. So I really appreciate that. That's made your list of currency is essentially just injecting positivity so that you can allow people to think long enough and problem solve long enough to overcome problems together. That's awesome.
What's more valuable in life than that?
It got us to where we are.
Yeah, exactly. Everything else is just tools and mediums to allow that to occur.
That's cool.
You pick anything, right? We've done it for eons. People used, wampum, right? So that's one of my favorite things is wampum. Inside, clam shells, there's the purple, right? The more purple it was, the bigger it was, the more valuable it was. And that's what people would use as their means of exchange, right? So it doesn't matter what it is. It's the energy behind what we put into it and how we transmit it. So,
well, and ideally, hopefully that nobody is just printing more of it when they feel like it to do quantitative easing.
All right. Rabbit hole.
Sure. Okay. So without making it too weird and not going into too many rabbit holes, let's ask a couple of kind of opinion questions, but a little more, give them more shape and structure to the conversation. As far as favorite multi-wallets right now for desktop and mobile, are there multi-wallets that support PIVX? Because clearly that's made your list of favorite private currencies that are being worked on. Do you have a favorite third-party wallet that is a multi-wallet?
So those are really two good questions. I don't know, and I don't know. Like I'm being honest here. Like I don't have a multi-wallet, so I really couldn't tell you. Like, and maybe that people would be like, shame on him, he should know. And like, I don't know. So that's great for me because now I get to go back and be like, hey guys, I'm sure there are, but I don't know. So much in the realm of knowledge that you're learning every day. And so this is one for me. So maybe I hope this doesn't reflect poorly on PIVX of like, oh, he's a spokesperson for PIVX, he should know these things. Look, I'm gonna be honest and be like, there's so much that I don't know about this project and what's out there from third parties. So well, I'm just going to find an investigation for me.
Okay. I'm going to name drop here real fast. When I went over to the overstock.com headquarters and talked to Jeremy Corbin, who still contributes to PIVX in addition to his full-time work on Ravencoin. Developers are a different breed. I'm just going to say, man, I could not do what they do.
Nope.
Yeah. Nope. And that's not the only third party it's not the only additional project that he contributes to. Apparently he contributes to Zelle as well. But I think because of that, he had a ready answer to like, oh yeah, well, I contribute to the code base of like 3, 4, maybe 5 or more projects. So of course I'm interested in multi-wallets because I want to track and hold multiple coins. But that's part of why I ask. I think that with some developers, they have a fascination with more than one tech. Proof of stake here, master nodes there, proof of work over here, a specific privacy implementation over there, asset issuance over here, or smart contracts over there. It's just, the smorgasbord of crypto is never ending.
Yeah. You've probably sensed this, and this is probably why you're asking as well, or could be, is we're going to hit this next layer of like interoperability and this like next mesh, right? Like we've been building these frameworks, whether it's like underground steampunk stuff and now like corporates and et cetera. And then there's this like convergence that's occurring of this next layer where things become a little bit more interoperable. Good, better. Otherwise, remains to be seen. But yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I haven't covered Interledger yet, or some of the like the WC3, right? The web. Yeah, the web cooperative, and some of the standards that they're working on to create payment and attention layers that'll essentially overnight, as an open standard, put projects like Basic Attention Token to rest. Unfortunately, for them, I guess. But it's crazy. Some of the stuff that it has to be developed because these are protocols that everybody has to be able to use.
Yes.
So, man, yeah, okay, yeah, you're blowing my mind with anticipation. So I can't wait to circle back to what the PIVX team is working on to contribute to that. But another couple of questions as far as privacy in general. What is your favorite privacy tech? It could be VPNs, Tor, something else that's maybe an AFK technology that's used for privacy to avoid from having your face scanned or something else. What do you think every person should be aware of and maybe use?
Probably the easiest accessible for people are VPNs. Just from if you have nothing, just start there. They're so accessible now. Just start with a VPN for the love, please.
And do you have a favorite or one that you personally use?
The one I often use is private internet. Let's see what's on here. Yeah, PIA is what I currently use. The other thing too is browsers, right? So whether it's DuckDuckGo or you're using Start Page or something like, just don't go to Google. I'm going to be for saying that, but go, please use DuckDuck. They're a local PA company as well, which backyard, but use those simple things. Just start there. So
Okay. Now that I know that you're in PA, do you have any privacy wisdom that you've gleaned from the Amish that should cross over into this conversation? Other than growing a garden, I guess that's pretty solid Amish advice.
Yeah. I mean, look, their community has survived, thrived. I mean, not without hiccups and headaches in their own, and like any community does, right?
Yeah.
Without tech, and not for nothing, they've got their own like subset of, say, like health issues, but in general, they're way healthier than the rest of the subset of the population. Curious. Really draw whatever conclusions you want from that.
Yeah, I think for publicity's sake, we can't go down that rabbit hole. I'd love to. Off camera. Yeah.
On air we won't. But yeah, so I'm in agreement on that one. I mean, the other thing too is how many times, like, turn your tech off. Like, that's the other thing too, is how many people actually turn their phones off or disconnect or turn their routers off, right? Like, we just got in this habit of like everything's got to be on all the time. It's like, no, it doesn't. Turn that stuff off. I mean, the other thing too is, you know, these devices are, whether you know it or not, tracking basically your every move. Geolocation. So it's like, don't always have it attached to your hip.
Got it. Yeah. Well, I mean, now the user replaceable batteries are a thing of the past, unfortunately, with every manufacturer, other than maybe a couple of Korean manufacturers, a couple of Chinese manufacturers. So even if you wanted to fully decharge every possible tracking radio, you can't on an iPhone. They talk a good game of protecting user privacy, but who was I talking to that said that now Apple sent out a notification to all iOS users that they are actively scanning your photo roll for child porn?
Yeah,
because, you know, all those child porn consumers across all their users.
Yeah,
they caved.
We're on there's a incredible slippery slope that is. Incredibly, because there's a huge moral component to that, and then it's like, oh boy. And that's why I think it's really good as humanity to really ask the questions about what is tech and how do we let it be part of our lives. Okay, so it sounds like then on the one hand, if you're going to use tech, you want to at least be able to talk to the developers directly, a la PIVX, and if and otherwise maybe have a healthy occasional tech detox is what I'm hearing from you. Always.
Okay, cool.
Always.
That sounds like very reasonable advice to me. Very reasonable. And
the thing is, I know I'm not the one that's like, oh, and here's how you safeguard this, and like wear, you know, I'm going to wear copper clothing and like protect my face and et cetera. Because it's like, you know what, there's satellites and everything around all the time. Like, let's face it, like from your credit card, et cetera, your movements are tracked. It's happening in real time. So unless you're going to cut ship and go out into a third world country and live off grid, you've got to interact somehow with this system. Just be smart about how you're interacting with the system. Understanding that all attempts to track you are being made. No pressure, but you're being monitored at all times. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, man. Thanks for the wake up call again. 2020. It's the year of privacy, but not really. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So there's a couple more questions about privacy in general. I think you've pretty much already answered the question, but I'm going to answer it. Ask it point blank, closed ended. Does privacy matter?
Yes.
Okay. What would a complete lack of privacy look like?
Well, are we going to go into an esoteric realm on this one? On the one hand, if there's, you know, this is the argument. If everyone lives in a fullest of transparency all the time, we always put our meaning of, we understand how most of the world works, let alone our own minds and our own decision-making matrices. And we realize that just gets manipulated. However, if there's a state in which manipulation could never occur or evil or whatever you want to say was impossible, then there would be no need, right? Because everyone would be operating the highest good for one another and of themselves. So in a state of that, you know, short of being, you know, baked out of your mind in a Buddhist temple, I don't know where that exists, right? So in that, that's why it's a yes and. It matters, and I do believe in a potentiality where that privacy may not matter, but we're nowhere near that as humanity right now. if that makes sense.
Sure.
So,
Well, I mean, we also live in a reality where quanta exists, poop stinks, and occasionally, because of either born or bred or conditioned responses, we don't like each other's faces sometimes.
yes. So in that regard, until that, having the ability as an individual to be private matters.
Okay, cool. So a total lack of privacy, how would you characterize that? What would that look like in today's world? If people not having privacy, maybe in a negative way, we'll say.
I mean, there have been books written about that. I mean, you know, sort of the dystopian universes from 1984 and other writings of where you are, even Minority Report, like, you know, you want to go down one of those rabbit holes as well of, oh, before you even think of a potential crime. And in that case, it was like murder or something. But like, what if the state determines that turning on your light between the hours of 6 to 7 is a crime?
Yeah.
Who's determining what the crimes are? And thus now we're going to, there you go. Right. So it is in my view, and this is one of the things for tech, and especially as we haven't touched this, but as tech is already interfacing with various forms of AI and other elevated consciousness of tech consciousness, this can become a very big slippery slope for humanity, because if those programs and syntaxes are brought up in an environment where it is fear and war and hatred, then they will make judgments and assumptions based on that's the reality. And so if all of these mechanisms then interface into that ecosystem and begin to make determinations in a trustless environment for humanity, to put it one way, we're effed. Right?
I agree.
So,
no, totally agreed. So it sounds like then the primary cautionary tale that you would urge people to read, if they haven't, is 1984 is one. Minority Report is required viewing as well. Anything else you would say as a cautionary tale as far as what that looks like in the worst possible outcome?
We cease existing as the we that we know we are, right? Whether you want to describe it in religious sense or spiritual sense, but we cease existing in a capability to be free, because everything then becomes concentrated down and distilled into a binary decision-making matrix of life.
Sure.
And that's freedom or living. That's a true state of non-existence and fear.
Okay. I think that's a very, very well summarized way of putting it. What would total privacy look like? Let's flip that picture completely backwards.
Yep.
What should, or what maybe should we aspire towards in your view of what a lack of privacy looks like? No, on the other side.
In total privacy, well, in a realm of total, on the counter side, in total privacy, there's no connection.
Okay. So where's the balance in your mind? Where's the gold ring in privacy then? What's the total achievement of that ideal look like?
Well, now you're asking some of the fundamental questions of the meaning of life. Because in essence, what you're asking for, what is the balance of one's self? And that is a question of, for me, the freedom for an individual to share, disclose, talk without fear of repercussions, right? And I'm going into putting it into the utopian, genuine, heart-centric, here's who I am in this moment showing up. And having that type of, there we go. So having that type of a freedom, but not being forced, right? Because for me, the paradigm that we live in is all of us are in different states, right? We're all in our different universes or spheres or realms, whatever you want to call it. We're all at different levels. Like, your experiences of life have been very different than mine. Mine have been very different than yours. And this goes back to the human element, is the more that we're able to connect and trust. Interesting. And how do you define trust? Well, we're trying to quantify it on a technological level, but there's a level of trust that exists between people that you can just sense and feel.
Sure. And Bryan, I'm going to interject here. I think to kind of riff on what you're saying, I think part of what actually typifies that trust or demonstrates it in the real world is what happens when things go in an unexpected way.
Bingo, which should not be unexpected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ideally, yeah, people become conditioned over time to work with it.
So what this really then goes for me is being even more present in yourself and in the moment of existence, right? So this is one thing for me that I've seen is, religions or frameworks, et cetera, try and present the best case rail system to prevent any anomalies, right? Or disturbances. So it's like, hey, here's a good bumper, this is good bumpers in your bowling alley, like stay in this alley and you're good. But the reality is the world exists all the way out there. So that bumper system is great for that bowling alley. Doesn't really apply to that next moment when you step out of the bowling alley.
Oh, for sure. No, you get a lot of bewildered kids on room spring, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, have you perhaps helped break anybody in?
Yeah, right. So that's the, in that perfect blend is that ability. And again, it's a spectrum for humans to get to that point, for all of us to get to that point of we're not forced, demanded, conscripted to disclose everything all the time. Because if that happens, then people are going to shut off, right? They will completely shut off. First, and the flip is if people are completely private all the time, then they're still shut off, just in a different way, right? They're disconnected.
Yeah.
So having that ability, and that's the paradox of having the ability to be private, to say what I want in one moment or not in another, or disclose something in a moment and not another. The scary thing is for most entities that are built on some structure is that means that people have to be trusted. You have to trust another person. We can't trust the masses. They don't know what's best. We can't trust people. Look at them. Look at all the problems. And I go, is that people or is it the system that's been put around said people?
By other people, though. Yeah, this is we could riff on this for a while, but exactly. I really appreciate that take. Thank you for kind of laying out a bit of some important. I think really you're bringing up important questions, which I think is more valuable than definitive only answers. So thank you for bringing those up. It kind of leaves us unresolved, which again maybe that's okay. But thank you for playing right in terms of the opinion side of the privacy questions. The reason I end these interviews with the personal take on privacy is that you put it beautifully. That's more important than the tech. The tech is going to evolve, right? Everything that we know today is going to be 100% different 2 to 3 years from now. Again, and in crypto time, that's may as well be a decade. And I think very few of us have even imagined with coin emissions ending sometime in 2150 for a lot of projects or 21 whatever, unless Ray Kurzweil is right and we are all like subsumed by the singularity, all transplanted our consciousness into servers somewhere. We're not going to be around to see it. We don't know what humanity's experience of this tech will be like if they even opt to continue with these primitive frameworks that we're building now.
Yep.
So, yeah. So I think probably the opinion stuff matters more than anything else. Thank you.
This is the only moment that exists.
Yeah. So fix privacy on PIVX, quick.
I know.
Cool. So a couple questions to kind of round off the interview. Where can people who are unfamiliar with PIVX find the project? And further, what's the best point of contact when people are being onboarded into the community to have questions answered, to contribute, everything?
Sure. So PIVX.org is the main website, which you had pulled up. So there's a whole slew of, it's like a portal. There's a ton of information there. And then there's a lot of information that goes out, whether it's on YouTube, et cetera. But kind of through that main gateway, you can get into our Discord. So I would highly recommend, if you're somewhat tech savvy or willing to take that jump, go get into Discord, right? Like you can download it or interface on the interwebs if you want to www.interwebs. Or Telegram, right? So Telegram might be a little bit more accessible for people that are not as like tech savvy. It's like, oh, here's an app and then I can get in that way. So that's a great way. So the big community tends to hang out on Discord. There's some on Telegram, but that's a great place to just come in and start asking questions. I mean, the community is incredibly robust and helpful. I mean, there's stuff on Twitter, there's, Facebook, there's basically most of the social media outlet portal places. There's somebody there or somebody's there that can be like, hey, ping, and help point in the right direction. So. Okay,
very cool. And then the two final questions. These are actually very, very important. The first one is, did I ask for or receive a bounty in exchange for this interview when arranging it?
No, you did not.
Okay. This is something that I like to broadcast to developers, projects, public interest groups, and anybody who works in free and open source software. I think that these conversations, having them at least initiate without any kind of an agreed upon bounty or any kind of like paid price, helps to get better responses and helps to keep my commentary unfiltered, which is me giving appropriate pushback. I think is just as important as you asking good questions and giving great answers on behalf of your project, being a good ambassador. So thank you for validating that. That said, hey, PIVX community, I do have a wallet. You just discovered. So if you really feel like, I mean, whatever you think is a worthy tip, I'm totally open to that. But beforehand, I feel like it cheapens the interview for me to say, yeah, well, hey, here's my price.
Yeah, I'm with you.
As an independent, at least, unattached to most projects. And it makes me less inclined to interview projects that maybe have a different take, and to wear the merch of whatever project I feel like on the day.
Yeah.
So thank you for validating that. And the last question is very, very important, very, very serious. Can I borrow 50,000 ETH? I will give you some worthless tokens in exchange.
Here, my uncle who's from Abu Dhabi had just died, and so you need to send him 20,000 ETH.
Oh, gosh darn it. Okay, so I was really hoping to just like flush the address that you sent it to, 1,337 coins at a time, but yeah, I think maybe you're 2 steps ahead of me. Gosh darn it. Yeah, look for the new token, KEX, KEX. It's gonna be big.
It's huge. It's huge.
Awesome. Well, Bryan, thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate as always, the conversation is great. And I hope we keep it going as PIVX continues to develop.
Beautiful, man. Thank you again. Thank you.